I stared at the Facebook message on my phone screen, reading it for the third time. Quinn, this is your father, Harry. I know it's been a very long time. I'd really like to reconnect. Can we talk? Here's my number, my father. The word felt strange, foreign, like a language I used to speak but had forgotten. I hadn't heard from Harry Nelson in 23 years. 23 years of complete silence. And now out of nowhere, he wanted to reconnect. I knew better than to believe it was that simple. How did I get here? How did I end up staring at a message from a man who meant less to me than a stranger on the street? Well, let me introduce myself. I'm Quinn Matthews. I'm 29 years old. I'm a lawyer, and 23 years ago, I was abandoned by my own father. My mom, Andrea, died when I was 6. Cancer took her slowly, piece by piece, until she couldn't even get out of bed anymore. But what made it infinitely worse was watching my father fall in love with someone else while she was dying. Her name was Lara. She was his mistress, and he had the audacity to bring her to our house, to my mother's house, while Mom was still alive, still fighting. I remember one afternoon in particular. I was sitting on the floor next to my mother's bed, holding her hand. Her fingers were so thin and fragile, like bird bones wrapped in paper. That's when Lara walked in like she owned the place. She stood at the foot of the bed, looking down at my dying mother with something between pity and triumph in her eyes. "How are you feeling today, Andrea?" she asked, her voice dripping with false concern. Mom didn't answer. She just closed her eyes, tears sliding down her temples. "You know," Lara continued, "I've been thinking about the house. It's going to need some redecorating, new curtains, maybe new furniture, a fresh start." She smiled. "I'll be the queen of this house when you leave." Something inside me snapped. "You're a bad person," I shouted, jumping to my feet. "You're mean and you're bad and you shouldn't say things like that to my mommy." Lara's eyes went wide with shock. She stepped back, her hand to her chest like I'd physically struck her. "Harry!" she called out. Dad rushed into the room. He took one look at me, 6 years old, face red, tears streaming down my cheeks, and his expression hardened. "Quinn, apologize to Lara right now," he demanded. "No," I said. "She said mean things to Mommy." "I said apologize." Dad grabbed my arm, pulling me away from Mom's bedside. "I won't," I shouted, trying to pull free. "She's bad. She's a bad person, and I won't say sorry." "Harry, don't," Mom whispered weakly, but he wasn't listening. "Go to your room," Dad said, his grip on my arm tightening, "right now." She was mean to Mommy first. I was crying now, struggling against his hold. "I don't care. You do not talk back to me, young man." I looked at my mother, lying there too weak to defend herself. I looked at Lara with her satisfied smile, and I looked at my father, choosing her over me, over Mom. "I hate you," I screamed at them both. "I hate you, and I'll never say sorry." Dad dragged me out of the room and down the hall to my bedroom. He pushed me inside and slammed the door. "You'll stay in there until you're ready to apologize," he shouted through the door. "I'll never apologize," I screamed back. "Never." I heard his footsteps walk away. Through my bedroom door, I could hear Lara playing the victim. "He's always been difficult, Harry. So disrespectful." "I'll deal with him," Dad said. "I'm sorry he upset you." He was apologizing to her. For me, defending my dying mother. Dad came back twice to ask if I was ready to apologize. Both times I said no. I never did apologize. Not then, not ever. A few weeks later, Uncle Norman came to visit. Mom asked me to play in my room while they talked about grown-up things. As I walked out, I heard Mom say to Norman, "I need to change my life insurance beneficiary. Today. Can you help me?" I didn't understand what that meant at the time. Later that afternoon, when Dad came home from work, Uncle Norman was still there. Their voices were loud, angry. I crept to the top of the stairs to listen. "You had no right," Dad was shouting. "That's my money. I'm her husband." "She had every right," Norman said coldly. "Andrea is of sound mind. She can designate whoever she wants as her beneficiary, and she chose Quinn." "That's $300,000, Norman. That money is Quinn's," Norman said firmly. "It's going into a trust. I'm the trustee, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it." I heard Dad punch the wall hard enough that the drywall cracked. Before Mom died, she gave me something. A small leather-bound book, her diary. "This is very important, sweetheart," she whispered. I've written everything in here. Everything that's happened. Everything Uncle Norman helped me do to protect you. If anything ever happens to me, you give this to Uncle Norman. Can you promise me that?" I nodded, clutching the diary to my chest. "And Quinn, don't let Dad find this. Keep it hidden. This will protect you when I can't anymore." I promised her I would. I hid that diary in the bottom of my toy box. I checked on it every day. 2 months later, Mom was gone. 1 week after her funeral, Dad married Lara in a quiet courthouse ceremony. Lara moved in immediately, bringing her son Rowan with her. He was 9, 3 years older than me, and from day one he made it clear I wasn't wanted. Lara wouldn't eat at the same table as me. They established a new routine. The 3 of them would eat dinner together while I waited in my room. When they finished, Lara would fix me a plate and I'd eat alone at the kitchen table. On my 7th birthday, there was nothing. No cake, no presents. But 2 months later, on Rowan's 10th birthday, Dad threw him an elaborate party. Bounce house, his entire class invited, a brand new bike. I watched from my bedroom window as Dad called him Champ, and Lara beamed with pride. That was the day I understood. I wasn't part of this family anymore. 3 months later, Dad told me to pack my things. He said I was going to stay with Uncle Norman for a while. He drove me there in complete silence. When we arrived, he walked me to the door with my small suitcase, rang the bell, and left before Norman even answered. I watched his car disappear, and somehow I knew he wasn't coming back. I was right. I never saw him again. Not for 23 years. Uncle Norman and Aunt Diana saved my life. Norman was just starting his own law firm when I arrived. Money was incredibly tight, but they took me in without hesitation, without making me feel like a burden. Diana had always wanted children. She and Norman had tried for years, but it never happened. When I showed up on their doorstep, she told me later, it felt like an answer to a prayer. She became my mother in every way that mattered. She tucked me in at night, helped me with homework, attended every school event. She held me when I had nightmares about Dad coming back for me. They put me in therapy even though money was tight. They made sure I understood that the abandonment wasn't my fault, that I deserved love. And they proved it to me every single day. When I turned 18, I asked Norman if he would adopt me. Legally. Officially. Norman cried. Diana cried. They said it would be the greatest honor of their lives. So I became Quinn Matthews. Norman paid for everything. My entire education, from undergraduate through law school. He never touched the money from my mother's life insurance policy. That sat in a trust, carefully invested, growing year by year. He told me that money was my future, my foundation. When I graduated law school at 25 and passed the bar, Norman offered me a position at Matthews Law Firm. By then, what had started as his small practice had become one of the most prestigious law firms in the state. When I turned 21, I got access to Mom's trust fund. The $300,000 had grown to nearly $400,000. Norman handed me the account information and said, "Your mother wanted you to have security. This is hers to you." Now at 29, I've been practicing law for 4 years. I specialize in corporate fraud, but I handle all kinds of fraud cases. People who lie about their finances, who create fake emergencies, who manipulate family members for money. I also sell vintage toy cars online. It started as a hobby, but grew into a legitimate business. I'm doing well, really well. I have my own apartment, my own car. I built a life I'm proud of. I thought I'd moved on. And then I got that Facebook message. I showed it to Norman that evening. He read it twice, his expression darkening. After 23 years, he wants to reconnect, Norman said quietly. He wants something. Money. A favor. Something. I know, I said. Then why are you considering responding? Because I want to know what he's stupid enough to ask for. Norman studied my face. You're not that 6-year-old kid anymore. No, I agreed. I'm not. Just be careful, and if you need backup. I know, Dad. I'll call you. I called Harry the next day. He answered on the second ring, and I could hear the smile in his voice. Quinn, son, it's so good to hear your voice. The casual use of son made my jaw clench. What do you want, Harry? I want to see you. Catch up. Can we have dinner? You, me, Lara, and Rowan? Every instinct told me to say no, but I didn't. Fine, I said. When? The first dinner was exactly as awkward as I'd expected. Harry tried to hug me. I shook his hand instead. Lara gave me a tight smile. Hi, Quinn. It's been so long. Rowan barely acknowledged me. Harry asked surface-level questions. What have you been up to? You working? Yeah, I work. I'm doing all right. What kind of work? Professional work. Keeps me busy. I didn't elaborate. I wanted to see if they'd actually ask about my life. They didn't. Instead, Harry spent the entire dinner talking about Rowan. Rowan just got promoted. He's an executive now. We're so proud. Lara beamed. He works so hard. We always knew he'd be successful. Not once did anyone ask about Norman, about my life, about anything that mattered. When the check came, Harry insisted on paying. We should do this again soon. I agreed, because I wanted to see where this was going. The second dinner was more of the same. More praise for Rowan, more talk about his success. At one point, Lara asked, Are you still living with Norman? No, I have my own apartment. Oh, that's nice, she said, and immediately turned back to Rowan. I was waiting for the real reason to reveal itself. The third dinner started the same way. Then Harry dropped his news. Quinn, exciting update. Rowan found a condo he wants to buy. Lara glowed with pride. It's in such a beautiful building. Perfect for him. Rowan leaned back with satisfaction. Yeah, it's a solid investment. I'm putting in an offer. We're helping with the down payment, of course, Harry said. That's what family does. We support each other. I said nothing. Then Rowan took his shot. So Quinn, you mentioned professional work. What exactly does that mean? It means I work in a professional capacity, he smirked. Everyone calls themselves a professional these days. What do you actually do? Lara joined in. Yes, Quinn, we'd love to know. Are you in an office? Retail? Something like that, I said. Rowan laughed. See? Professional is just code for some boring job. Maybe a clerk? An assistant? Harry shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Lara sat there with that satisfied expression, enjoying it. I turned to Harry, waited to see if he'd defend me. He didn't, just like always. That's when I smiled. You're right, Rowan. Not everyone can be an executive. He looked pleased. Exactly, he said. Just like not everyone can be a lawyer. Silence. I'm a lawyer, I said. I work at my father's law firm. I put emphasis on father and looked at Harry. He flinched. Matthews Law Firm, the biggest in the state. I've been practicing for 4 years. I specialize in corporate fraud, but I handle all kinds. People who lie about finances, create fake emergencies, manipulate family for money. Rowan's mouth fell open. You're a lawyer? That's right. Oh, and I also sell vintage toys online. Quite lucrative. Collectors pay thousands for rare pieces. I let that sink in. So yes, I'm doing very well. I own my apartment, my car, built my life from the ground up. Well, except for my father, Norman. He paid for my entire education, supported me, loved me. Everything a real father does. Harry looked stricken. Quinn, I held up my hand. Why are we really here? You don't reconnect after 23 years just because you miss someone. What do you really want? A relationship? That ship sailed when my mother was dying and you let your side chick insult her. When you got mad at Emmy for defending her. When you discarded me because Lara couldn't stand having a child around. So why are we here? Let's not beat around the bush. Harry cleared his throat. You're right. We should have been up front. It's about your mother's life insurance policy. There it was. What about it? I was Andrea's husband. Legally, I should have had some right to that money. But she changed the beneficiary, and Norman made sure it went into a trust I couldn't access. Norman protected Mom's wishes, I said. That was $300,000, Harry said. I helped pay for Andrea's medical care. I had expenses. Lara leaned forward. We're family, and family helps each other. We need help with Rowan's condo down payment. $35,000. You have Andrea's insurance money, and technically Harry should have had a claim to some of it. You want me to give you money from Mom's life insurance, I said flatly. The policy she specifically changed to make sure you wouldn't get a cent. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. Mom knew what kind of man you were. She made certain that money would go to me and only me. Harry's face reddened. I was her husband. I had legal rights. Had. Past tense. She changed the beneficiary. You have no claim. Lara's mask slipped. You have money. You're a lawyer with a good job. We're asking for $35,000 to help your brother Rowan. Is that too much? My brother, I said. Rowan isn't my brother. He's a 32-year-old executive who still needs mommy and daddy to buy him property. That's not fair, Rowan started. Fair? Rowan makes 6 figures. He could save his own down payment. But when you run out of money, you come to me, the son you threw away, and expect me to pay? We could challenge it, Lara said, her eyes hard. Contest the beneficiary change. Harry was her spouse. I smiled. I knew it, all about the money. How about this? Go ahead. I challenge you to sue me. Please, hire a lawyer, contest it. Harry's eyes widened. Quinn, I'd love that, because then we'd have discovery. All the facts would come out. Your affair with Lara while Andrea was dying. How you brought your mistress into our home. How you let her tell my dying mother she'd be the queen of this house. How you punished your 6-year-old son for defending his mother. Lara went pale. A judge would love that, I continued. And we'd have to explain why you're trying to get this money now. 23 years later, after 3 dinners pretending to reconnect, a jury would see it for what it is, a man manipulating his abandoned son to fund his stepson's lifestyle. I pulled out my phone. I've been recording our conversations. All 3 dinners, one-party consent state, legal. I have you on record talking about the condo, needing $35,000, claiming rights to insurance money. I paused. But the best evidence? Mom's diary. She documented everything. Your affair. Lara's cruelty. The day Norman helped her change her beneficiary. She wrote about going to his office, of sound mind, specifically designating me as sole beneficiary. She wrote she didn't want you to have it because you'd abandoned her for another woman. Harry looked sick. She gave me that diary before she died, told me to keep it hidden, to give it to Norman if I needed protection. I still have it. Every page, dated, in her handwriting, airtight evidence of her intent. I stood up. And through all this, Rowan insulting me, Lara demanding money, you just sat there, Harry, just like always. You still won't defend me. I turned to Lara. You will never be my family. You were Mom's tormentor. I turned to Harry. You're not my father. You stopped being my father when you let Lara insult my dying mother, when you punished me for defending her. Norman is my father. He raised me, loved me, gave me everything a real father gives his son. We're still family. Harry tried. Don't. You don't get to play the family card after 23 years. We're strangers who share DNA. That's all. I pulled out my wallet and threw $200 on the table. That covers my share. Payment in full for 23 years of absence. Harry stood. Quinn, wait. You made your choice 23 years ago. You chose Lara. You chose Rowan. But you don't get me too. I'm still your father. No, you're the man who abandoned me. My father is Norman Matthews. He tucked me in at night, taught me to ride a bike, paid for my education, adopted me, made me his son in every way that matters. I picked up my phone. If any of you contact me again, lawsuit, office visit, Facebook message, I'll file criminal fraud charges and civil suit. I'll use every piece of evidence, the recordings, Mom's diary, property records. I'll bury you in legal fees and judgments. Are we clear? They just stared. I'll take that as a yes. I walked out without looking back. I got to my car and called my dad, Norman. How did it go? He asked. Exactly like you said. They wanted Mom's insurance money. $35,000 for Rowan's condo down payment. I said. Are you okay? Yeah, Dad, I'm okay. I finally said everything I should have said 23 years ago. I'm proud of you, son. They threatened to sue, I said, laughing. Let them try. We've got Andrea's diary, her lawyer's notes, medical records. They don't have a leg to stand on. Good, because I meant every word. Come home. Diana's making your favorite dinner, Dad said. Thanks, Dad. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hung up and started the car. As I drove away, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Totally free. For 23 years, I'd wondered why I wasn't good enough, why my father didn't want me. But I finally understood. I'd done nothing wrong. I was 6 when I defended my dying mother. 6 when I refused to apologize. 6 when I told my father I hated him for choosing his mistress. And I'd been right. Mom knew what kind of man Harry was. That's why she gave me her diary. Changed her beneficiary. Made sure I'd be protected. She knew he'd come back for money. and she made sure I'd be strong enough to say no. I pulled into Norman and Diana's driveway, the house where I'd arrived as a traumatized 6-year-old, where I'd healed, where I'd learned what real family looked like. Norman stepped onto the porch, hands in his pockets, waiting. I got out and walked up to him. "Hey, Dad." "Hey, son." He pulled me into a hug. "You did good tonight. Your mother would be proud." Diana appeared in the doorway, smiling. "Dinner's ready. Come inside." As I walked into that house, I realized something. Harry and Laura and Rowan could keep their resentment and entitlement. I had something better. I had parents who chose me, who fought for me, who made me theirs. I had Norman and Diana Matthews, and I had my mother's love, still protecting me 23 years after her death. That 6-year-old who refused to apologize to Laura, he'd been right all along. She was a bad person, and I never had to say sorry. Not then, not now, not ever. Weeks later, I never heard from them again. Not Harry, not Laura, not Rowan. No Facebook messages, no phone calls, no lawsuits, nothing. Just silence, which was exactly what I wanted. Life went on. I made partner at Matthews Law Firm. My vintage toy business continued to grow. Diana taught me her famous lasagna recipe. Norman and I won a major corporate fraud case together that made the state news. I was happy, really genuinely happy. Then one day, I ran into one of Harry's cousins at McDonald's of all places. I was grabbing lunch between court appearances when I heard someone call out my name. Well, my old name. It took me a second to recognize her. Linda, Harry's cousin from his side of the family. I hadn't seen her since I was a kid. I corrected her, told her it was Matthews now, and we made small talk for a moment. Then she told me something I hadn't asked about, but she seemed eager to share. Rowan never got that condo. Turns out Harry and Laura couldn't come up with the down payment after all. And then, this was the interesting part, Rowan's finances completely fell apart. He'd been drowning in credit card debt. Deep debt. Bad enough that he had to move back in with Harry and Laura. Linda seemed to think I'd want to know this, that it would mean something to me. I thanked her for the information and went back to my car. As I drove to the office, I thought about what she'd told me. Did I feel vindicated? Maybe a little. Did I feel sorry for them? Not really. Mostly, I just felt nothing. They were strangers to me. Their problems weren't my problems. Their lives weren't my concern. It's none of my business. And yeah, I'm happy as ever. I have my parents, Norman and Diana. I have my career. I have my life. And that 6-year-old boy who stood up to Lara and refused to apologize, he turned out just fine. So that's my story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future stories. And I'd love to know, where are you listening from? Drop a comment below with your city or country. I read all your comments, and I love hearing from you. Thank you for listening. This is Melodic Vengeance. I'll see you next time. Take care.
If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Don't forget to follow for more content just like this. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.